I'm just waiting for the Hamilton County CAFR to scroll onto my screen. The CAFR is the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report of county government. The city produces one every year as well. A remarkable document that is never reported on by the press. Not even Dave Flessner, probably the most estimable journalist in Chattanooga, the business editor at the Time Free Press, has ever cited it, according to my readings of the newspaper and my having worked there for a very, very, very long time, in nearly more than 24 years as an editor there. Never saw the CAFR reported. And yet there it is, just about to scroll onto my screen, available for anybody who wants to know what is really happening in the county and Chattanooga. It's called the CAFR. Just do a Google on it, CAFR. And these are the real books of county government. The cities has also the real book in its CAFR, and which is a big project every year for the finance department in both governments. Now, the CAFR is important because if you want to find out some of the fundamentals of the business side of the county and the government side, you look there and see how the money, how the investments, how the tax revenues are allocated, even how they're collected down to the last dollar. You can see where personalty taxes fit in, licensing, fines, fees, and then where the money goes, property taxes, and then where the dollars go into that governmental economy. And the reason I was looking is because we have today the news is about the election by the board of the school board of Bryan Johnson, the former Clarksville school boss, the head of the academic element of that nonprofit, unprofitable governmental business line in Clarksville, the military town full of military families who send their children. The dads and moms are employed by the government in the military side, and the children are deployed, if you will, in the school system run by the state, with ostensible input from the county, Montgomery County, up there in the Clarksville area. So Bryan Johnson will be coming here to Chattanooga and taking the place of Dr. Kelly, who's been the interim since the resignation of the former Dr. Smith, the former superintendent. The idea of the superintendent is really important, and I think you can see the value of it and the importance of it in the name. And yet I fear somehow here on the David Tulis program that we are guilty of a bit of colossalism. Now, colossalism is from the word colossal, and of course, colossal is something big, right? And colossalism is the magnifying of something, making it bigger than it really is. Are we doing that as we are excited about this news in our county? Are things going to get better? Dr. Kelly was kind of the old guard, and that's why he was not selected, though he was well respected. The board, with I'd say Rhonda Thurman, kind of the leading figure on the school board, holding forth for Dr. Johnson 5-4 in his favor. The colossalism comes really not by anybody's intent on the news making side, but really on the side of the news tellers and the news consumers. That is to say, people who read these stories and have the sense of relief that now we have direction. Now things will be set straight. Now we will have an end to these secret coverings of malfeasance and wicked doings among coaching staffs and support staffs against players who are raped anally by pool sticks by their pals in the student body. We'll overcome those. We'll make right on funding problems. We'll figure out which new schools need to be built, and so on. You see what's happening here is this idea of colossalism. We magnify and make great the one who comes to lead in the executive position, who is responsible to the board, and who I'm not sure about the seating arrangements, but he really should be not equal to the board. He should sit apart from them and beneath them. That's structurally the way it should be. And yet I think I've been to a school board meeting where the superintendent is in the midst of the board, and the board has the authority. It has it is a It does have an executive function, and its naming of the superintendent should be reflected in the seating arrangement. He should be in front of and beneath them, sort of as a secretary, serving the board. And I'm not sure if that's always if that concept is always honored, if somehow he's not elevated in the seating arrangements, reflecting perhaps a real power that he may have had in the past. The Hamilton County staff, Hamilton County school staff, is vast. This is a gigantic enterprise. It is an unprofitable business, right? It's a business that cannot sustain itself, and so requires every year begging for money from the taxpayers through their agents on the county commission. The weight of the system is largely in the payroll for the leisure class. That would be the staff people in the public school. That's 6,307 people, according to the comprehensive annual financial report for 2016. And the number of students, again, a very large body of people in Chattanooga, they really can't envision the idea of being free and having, and for whatever reasons, there are many reasons, having their children trained by people who think like they do, right? The parents have one set of ideas, maybe religious, maybe about the country, maybe about morality, maybe about what's important, and yet they submit their children to the state in the public school system to make those children like others and to make them all of a general class of people. And that would be your modern, obedient, I'll take my licks American, whom we've become in many, many ways. We've become that kind of person. Think of the Worth County, I think it's Worth County, Georgia, southern Georgia, in Worth County High School not too long ago. The subject of a federal lawsuit against Sheriff Jim Hobby, I think, if I'm remembering correctly his name, and about 40 other deputies who effectively sexually assaulted 900 students in a high school in a lawless and malicious search of personal property and personal bodies. Not a single person said no. Not a single student rejected these approaches. Not a single member of the boys' wrestling team demanded that the deputy stop molesting the girl on the wall next to him with her arms high on the brick, her tennis shoes spread-eagled, and the deputy, with a glove that had been used to search another person just one slot down, is running the hand up the side of the inside part of the leg and touching that girl's crotch. And here the boy looking over and seeing what's happening, not saying anything. How is that? How do we have people like that? Well, that's because we're in public school, and that is what public school is about. 43,000 students, 43,105 students, according to the comprehensive annual financial report for the county, 2016, the freshest data, financial data. The operating budget, $414.8 million, a lot of money for Bryan Johnson to oversee when he comes to take his job, when the contract details are ironed out. He's given a start date, and then he will become the superintendent, intending over the intentions of others. And yet, and the idea of colossalism is that we make much of that. Well, he's the superintendent. He has the will which superintends the will of everybody else, and he makes things happen. He is the executive. And yet, schools do not serve the client base, which pretendedly are the parents. The schools serve the state. They are the client that matters is the state. And it's only a bit of marketing that leads us to believe that the parents are the clients and that the parents are being served and that the individual is being served. So each individual person, each individual student may be elevated according to God's gift to that student, according to his gifts, according to his talents, his calling, all to be elicited and generated and boosted by the mass system, which by definition is a mass system and cannot care at all about individuals, though human beings who man the posts there among the 6,307 staff people are doing that. They are they care about individual students because they are human beings themselves. And so, and yet they are really not able to do what they would personally like to do because the machine is a machine with a budget of $414.8 million Hamilton County government providing 49.3%. And the good people in Nashville and Washington providing 196.2 million, with other income at about $8.5 million in charges and about $5.5 million in investment and other income into that system. Bryan Johnson will be taking the head, and he really can't change things, but because American schooling is effectively monolithic. It is not local. It is not independent. Schools serve state policy. They are effectively licensed by the Department of Education, which is an executive branch, and so they serve executive government. They serve monarchical, if you will, and administrative government, the face of which today here in Tennessee is Governor Bill Haslam. And so there's not really a great prospect of reform. Things will go as they have always gone, with some minor changes, which will be magnified in press reports, right? Page One and so on. And so we get the impression that good things are happening here. And certainly all you can do, well, perhaps not all, but the most you can do is wish Dr. Johnson a good arrival as he is made bigger. Though you see, we make him bigger, and I'm suggesting he's just the figurehead. He does not really superintend anything. His intentions don't superintend yours or the staff's or policy. Those things, namely policy from think tanks, from you might say the industrial and business culture, which feed the way students are viewed. They are a kind of natural resource. They are a kind of industrial commercial resource. Just for evidence of that assertion, just look at how everyone talks about how schools are there to make people to be ready for jobs, right? Schooling is not about finding your genius, finding your gift, and having you become an independent critical thinker, as we like to say, to be a remarkable person that creates dissonance in the market, that creates a new service that does not go along with everybody else. We can't have schools that create people like that and that encourage that kind of character. We have to have rather a different kind, serving the commercial and industrial interest, the interest of debt creation and borrowing, and this system does that. And we really are a bit naive to think that it's going to be doing anything different. Well, there are other things to mention, and I'm promising myself that my segment before we get to a scandal. A Chattanooga and Hamilton County scandal. Before we get to the scandal, I want to just give a thumbnail of other things to mention here. Forgive me for my brevity. You know, David Tulis, I'm going to complain to management here at Nooga Radio. We are Nooga Radio, 92.7 FM and AM 1240. A multitude of high definition channels such as 95.3 HD4. You can get us anywhere you want, anywhere in the world, on your smartphone through the TuneIn Radio app, on YouTube at Hot News Talk Radio, and certainly on Facebook. Every wonderful little segment I have, every little bit is its own show on Facebook, and it's live on Facebook as well. And I'm going to complain to the management that 2 hours is just not enough time. I'm going to complain. I need to have more time. There is a story out this morning about a city police officer who is on paid vacation. His name is Stephen Burton, for some kind of infraction not identified. He entered the police academy, according to, I think it's TV9, July 8, and went on solo duty May 5 of this year. And he's on paid vacation right now. Meanwhile, in Cleveland, officers who are involved in an execution, a statutorily permitted extrajudicial execution of two people, Timothy Russell and Melissa Williams, have been virtually cleared, though the city of Cleveland has had to pay $3 million for the two slain people. They officially are in good standing, though they were involved in a 137-shot fusillade, which ended in dramatic fashion with one of the officers standing on the hood of the car and leaping up amid police fire, terrifically courageous, standing on the hood of the car and emptying an automatic pistol into these two people whose car had issued a fart, a backfire in the presence of police. And there was a great chase, a terrific chase that went down, involving 100 officers and 62 police vehicles. It was a terrific scene. Every officer lives for this kind of excitement. And did they all get it from these two people, or with these two people in a Chevy Malibu? And Russell was hit with 24 bullets, and Williams, the woman, with 23 bullets. Neither were armed. They were not suspected of anything. Nothing could have justified that. A shooting that lasted 19 seconds. A lot of bullets down range. The leading officer was Officer Michael Brello, and he's been free from jail. He was fired, but since then he's become a gypsy cop. The story says at freethoughtproject.com. And but now notice the victims in the story, the people who were slain, are shown to have been somehow on medication, right? They had some kind of narcotics in their body, and so that's how the testimony was given in the favor of the officers. Others were Wilfredo Diaz, Bryan Sabalik, Michael Farley, and detectives Christopher Ihrig and Aaron O'Donnell. They all fired shots in a wonderful display of excessive force, all acquitted, every one of them acquitted. There was a bench trial by Brello, and a retired sheriff, an expert witness named Ken Katsaris, gave testimony to help exonerate the officers. And this man said the officer's only mistake was to expose himself to potential danger, thereby inhibiting his colleagues as they unleashed gunfire in the direction of the vehicle. Brello was taking action that is not trained, not recognized, not safe, and put all of the other officers in the vicinity of his becoming a victim, and the other officers having to attempt to now engage to save his life. Of course, the victims said to have been people who were on medication, who had some marijuana, some kind of intoxication about them or within them, and so these are sort of retroactively applied to them, giving a cause for this extraordinary, courageous feat, where the officer standing on the hood of the car, firing point blank into the window. The largest Protestant denomination in the country this week has denounced the largest baby killer organization in the country, Planned Parenthood, saying at the convention in Phoenix that its work is immoral, and they are calling on Congress to immediately and completely defund Planned Parenthood. We denounce the immoral agenda and practices of Planned Parenthood Federation of America and its affiliates, say the members of the Southern Baptist Convention, especially their role in the unjust killing each year of more than 300,000 precious unborn babies, its use of particularly gruesome illegal abortion methods, and its profiteering from harvesting unborn babies' tissues and organs. We urge the U.S. Congress to defund Planned Parenthood immediately and cut completely of all federal government support, and that all state and local government funding that supports Planned Parenthood be withdrawn immediately and permanently. And it asked the Justice Department to pursue criminal charges for the harvesting and trafficking of the parts of very small children. The Grenfell Tower story is remarkable. That sarcophagus that has taken now, I think, 30 lives, smoldering even now as we discuss it. Even though it has burned thoroughly in very high temperatures of around 1,000 degrees at its peak, makes us think again of Building 7 that went down September 11, 2001, with a few scattered office fires, a little bit of smoke coming out of it, and about 5 hours after the jets crashed into the upper towers in the main complex. This building went down completely and symmetrically into its own footprint in the manner of a textbook controlled demolition. Those are words from the architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth. 7 years later, the National Institute of Standards and Technology concluded that the collapse was due to normal office fires, which had never before brought down a steel frame high-rise. But today, thousands of architects and engineers are calling for a new investigation. This is David Tulis, and we're glad you're giving us just a minute of your time. I've got some important messages to give to you here. David Tulis, we're live at News Radio, and I didn't get finished with my news report. You're just going to have to forgive me. I'm trying to get to the details. Now, there's a scandal here in Chattanooga, and we're going to hear from an important person who's helping uncover the scandal, and we're going to hear what he has to say, why this is getting bigger and better. David Tulis.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM's news. Now,
a blaze broke out in East Brainerd. When the firefighters got there, they spotted one of the homeowners trying to put it out with a garden hose. They got him out of there and moved in with their own fire equipment. They were notified that one person was still inside the building. When they tried to get in to extricate her, it was already too late. She was found dead inside after the blaze was put out. 2 armed and dangerous escapees from Georgia, just south of Atlanta, have been captured. A homeowner spotted them trying to steal his car. He came out with a gun and held them until police could arrive to take him into custody. Donnie Rowe and Ricky DeBose are both arrested now and will be shipped back just south of Atlanta. They're accused of killing 2 corrections officers and carjacking a car and making an escape. Bryan Johnson voted the new superintendent of county schools, winning by the skin of his teeth against Superintendent Dr. Cupelli, who's the interim superintendent, in a 5-4 vote. He previously worked for the Clarksville-Montgomery school system in 2008. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News, now.
in-depth traffic, news, and information. Mornings on Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Expect some clouds and fog to start out your Friday. A muggy start will give way to a hot and humid afternoon. Just a slight chance of an afternoon shower. Highs upper 80s to near 90 tonight. Lows back to near 70. Hot and humid again on Saturday with scattered showers and storms more likely by Sunday night. Stop by Lowe's Deals for Dad event and get a DeWalt 20-volt drill for just $99. All projects have a starting point. Start with Lowe's.